Hey guys, check out Italian Wine Unplugged 2.0, brought to you by Mama Jumbo Shrimp, a fully updated second edition, reviewed and revised by an expert panel of certified Italian wine ambassadors from across the globe. The book also includes an edition by Professore Attilio Scienza, Italy's leading vine geneticist. To pick up a copy today, just head to Amazon.com or visit us at mamajumboshrimp.com.
Welcome to The Next Generation. I'm Victoria Cece. Join me as we chat with young Italian wine people shaking up the wine scene. We're going to geek out on a grape or grape fam, then hear about all the wild wine things our guests have been up to, from vineyard experiments to their favorite wine bars.
Good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are in this world. Welcome to another episode of The Next Generation with me. As usual, it's really funny because when I say with me, Victoria Cece, Cece, my name pronounced in American English, it rhymes. Victoria Cece, less rhyme. But I digress. Today we have some fun things to talk about and an awesome person to talk to, Barbara Fitzgerald, who will be on shortly. So before she comes on and talks all great things about wine and her background, which is super fascinating, by the way, we are going to take a little trip to Puglia. Granted, it is currently almost summer, and yeah, I just want to see a beach and drink some nice, crisp white wine. Which grape are we going to be talking about from the Italian Wine Unplugged 2.0 book today? Can you guess? I'll tell you, because I gave you so many darn context clues. Verdeca. Verdeca, white grape varietal from Puglia. It is also found in Campania as well, but definitely more in Puglia. It's named after the green color of its berries. So verde in Italian is green, verdeca. There we go. So some fun facts about verdeca. It is grown especially in central Puglia, in provinces of Bari and Taranto, as well as in the countryside, Alberobello, Crispiano, Locorotondo, and Martira Franca. So these are different towns in the countryside. Verdeca was and is almost always used in blends with Bianco di Alessano to make the DOC wines Locorotondo and Martina. It can also be part of the blend of the DOC Lacrima Christi of Campania. So now we're going to another region, so don't get confused. And now we could see Verdeca in more mono-varietal wines. When it comes to the berries, you got medium, large size bunches. It's vigorous, productive, and it's resistant to most diseases, which is a great thing to hear for the future of viticulture. Big topic. Italy, as we see temperatures rising, but I will save that discourse for another podcast, as I always say. So, finally, Verdeca produces wines that are fresh and crisp with delicately herbal and green apple flavors. That is called boat juice, my friends, and that is what we want to drink in the summer. On a pristine, white, sandy beach. Oh, well, not white sands, more rocky beach in Puglia. I mean, depends where you go. Either way, by a beach with blue water on a boat. Oh, sorry to give you all these visuals. Let's get to our guest.
Ciao, Barbara, or Barbara, whatever you prefer. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing well. So I hear you're based in Sonoma County. You're in another wine region.
Yes.
Super cool. So what brought you to love Italian wine?
Well, I was born and raised in San Francisco, California, to an Italian family who was really wonderfully committed to their language and their culture. And I feel like I really have to call that out because I'm just so grateful. I think a lot of Italian immigrants came to America and did their best to kind of assimilate, and justifiably so. But perhaps maybe sometimes at the expense of their native culture. So I think one of the things my family did so well was to honor life in America, but not lose touch with their roots. So my family is actually some of the pioneers of the California wine industry. They have the 4th wine growers license in the state. And those licenses are in the 25 25, maybe even 30,000 now. So that feels pretty special. They've been selling their own wine in California since the repeal of Prohibition and planted their own vineyards in the late 1960s in Sonoma County. But for a long period, they also simultaneously owned and operated one of the largest import and distribution companies in the U.S. So that was when I was quite young. So I didn't necessarily glean much professional experience from the distribution side, but culturally, it meant wine was always in our lives and always on the table. And what was so exciting is it was wine from everywhere, from Napa, from Sonoma, from Italy, from France. And my family actually used to travel to Italy every year on buyer's trips. So it feels very full circle that I found my way here.
That is so cool. And it's also something that like we don't talk about as much, I feel, is like the immigration of Italians to California. At least like, I mean, I don't hear people speak about that all the time. And that's incredible. So when did your family come to California? Like
they came right away from Lucca, Italy to California. I have 3 sides of my family, all from different little kind of townships of Lucca, and they all came at different times, but it was my great-grandfather that started our family wine business, and he came right after World War I, and it's kind of the lore in my family that he came here after the war with just 10 cents in his pocket and a dream.
that reminds me of my grandfather too. It's so beautiful to see the evolution. Did they bring did they smuggle any vines with them, or was it like bring?
So it's pretty fun. There's been some, it's like they passed away before I was born, so I've never heard it straight out of the horse's mouth. But like I said, they kind of have this really storied past in the area. And he immigrated here with his brother, and immediately they became grape distributors. So they were kind of buying, selling, trading grapes for people, mostly to make for personal consumption, because you were still allowed to produce, I think it was like up to 200 gallons during Prohibition, for your own personal needs and also for church services and things like that. But I've heard some crazy stories that they used to smuggle moonshine around in the
oh my God,
gas tank of their car, which is so wild. And so it's kind of also the joke in my family that we've owned a winery since 1937 legally.
Oh gosh, American alcohol history is very fascinating.
Yeah, it's wild.
I mean, even current times of how alcohol is regulated is just
feels so, like a hangover from Prohibition. Like, oh my gosh, it's just wild.
Yes, that's precisely the right word for it. Like, we still are in this giant hangover from Prohibition, and it's affected our culture so much around drinking, and especially with wine, because wine is, I mean, I say this obviously when I say low alcohol beverage, I mean in comparison to spirits like moonshine, something that's very easygoing. So does your family's winery still exist?
Yes, in Santa Rosa in the Russian River.
Oh, okay. Okay, so which winery is it? I'm out of the loop.
Pellegrini.
Ah, okay. Okay, and this brings us back to our discussion before, which is fun fact about me is I did harvest in Santa Rosa.
Yes.
And I actually know where that is. Oh my gosh, that is so cool. And I know this is the Italian Wine Podcast, but we always go off topic. But Sonoma County is, okay, everyone knows Sonoma County, but Sonoma County is such a hidden gem at the same time, because people come, they do the tourist thing, but they don't really I don't know. I feel like it's such a special little place.
It really is. And I think one of the things, especially for Italian wine fans, is the California wine industry here was really settled and started by Italian immigrants. So there is such this kind of, ethos of a similar culture to things that you might experience in Italian, even though there's not, unfortunately, a lot of Italian grapes here. Maybe we'll get into that a little later, but just the kind of the sense of hospitality.
Absolutely. No, and I totally agree, because I admittedly, when I went to harvest, there was that East Coast girl from New Jersey that knew some folks from San Francisco when I was in college, and was oh, you guys are the West Coast people. And I was just that dichotomy everyone talks about with the personalities. And I'm granted, I was biased and completely wrong. And then I went to Santa Rosa, and I was people are really cool up here. Like and you're right. It kind of has that, for lack of, I don't want to generalize Italian culture, but like in the Italian way of people are really like, they're really focused on what they do, but they're really relaxed at the same time. And like, I hate to say this, but like way more direct than like, that stereotype of like the California people are so passive and whatever. And I was like, everyone I've met up in Sonoma County is pretty not passive. So it was like, for me, I just like I was so proven wrong, which was great. But no, and speaking of the Italian varietals, I don't know if it's, can't remember the guy's name, but the winemaker I worked with, someone he knew was like planning a bunch of Italian varietals. I want to say it was Alexander Valley, but I think I'm wrong. And it was like, but not like he was planning like Pellegrino Nero and stuff like that, like really out of the box.
Yeah. Do you know what's funny is I know exactly what you're talking about. I was the marketing director for this winery for 5 years. So it's called...
Oh my God, see?
It's called Devero, and it's in Healdsburg. And yes, we grow only Italian varieties there. So we have Pellegrino Bianco. Our kind of flagship variety is Sagrantino, but we also have Sangiovese, Fiano, a little bit of Nebbiolo, Montepulciano, a little bit of everything.
Look at that. See, I couldn't even remember half that story. This is a blessing. That is so cool. So how is that going? How was that going?
It was good. I think being part of, that winery is 100% direct to consumer, which is great. But I think especially with the kind of full court press of direct to consumer that happened during COVID, I was just really burnt out, and I was feeling like I needed to be able to take a step back to really thoughtfully craft my next step, and not just, I was feeling a little zombie like by the time I was wrapped up there. So I just resigned in the end of January, and yeah.
Huh. And then you took a little sabbatical in Tuscany, is that right?
Well, I've been doing some consulting work for a few wineries, mostly here, but there is one out there that is looking to build, DTC. That's kind of my area of expertise, is direct to consumer. And there is such an opportunity for that in Italy. Like they have nowhere near, the level of California direct to consumer. And it's such an interesting sliver of business. Sliver isn't even the right word. It could be the whole pie if you do it right. So yeah, I just think there's so much opportunity to grow that. And people really want to travel to Italy and do wine tourism and things like that. And so it will be really interesting to see how that grows for them over the coming years. And I'm excited to maybe help some wineries with that. Kind of my focus. The reason why I love being involved in direct to consumer so much is because I think that's where change really starts. We can start on the smaller scale and grow it, as opposed to just trying to kind of back into it on this bigger scale. So I think each generation is holding us, all of us, like more and more accountable to the ideals that make us not just a better industry, but also a better society. So I'm talking about, more sustainable farming practices, minimizing carbon footprint, increased equity, diversity, and inclusion. And so not to say that the generations before us didn't care about these things, but the younger generations, kind of, from millennials on down, are really showing us how much they care with their purchasing power. So I think that brands that are already doing this should lean into their efforts more and share how they're doing this with their consumers. And brands that aren't might start to lose relevance here pretty quickly, because I kind of think, gone are the days where we're marketing wine as, drink this wine, it's the best wine out there. It's just not possible, right? In a world with thousands on thousands of wine brands and even more varied tastes and preferences among consumers. So it almost feels dishonest in a way to say that now. So I think that we should be creating an authentic path for our consumers to connect to us on a deeper level, and start thinking about how we as a brand can have a positive impact on all of these things, and then how we can convey that to the people that we want to be connected to.
Absolutely. Let's actually, now I realize that I probably should have more formally introduced you in the beginning of this podcast, but now's a good time, not just to introduce, but to learn a bit about you more. So you did the VIA program, the Italian Wine Ambassador Academy program, but what is your evolution in Italian wine? You're telling us a little bit about your specialty, but how'd you get there?
Well, I think I mentioned this before we started recording, but I think that my heart and my soul lies in Italy. And so I love wine so much. I love the wine industry. I'm also very classically a middle child in that I have to march to my own drummer and I get so hell bent on quote unquote making my own way. So I decided pretty early on that I wasn't going to work for my family. And I actually decided I'm going to leave the industry altogether. And I was pursuing other career paths. And then I realized I'm just being hard-headed because I love wine so much. I'm so passionate about it. So to satisfy my head and my heart, I decided I'd work in wine outside of my family business. And like I said, I'm just I'm so in love with Italy, all things Italian. And I think the world really needs to know about Italian wines and Italian grape varieties, and not just to be Italo-centric, but I'm sorry to say, maybe to just be something other than Franco-centric, right? Don't get me wrong. I love a good French wine. When it comes to champagne, the limit does not exist for me. But here in California, 93% of the vineyards in the North Coast appellation, which is where Sonoma, Napa, and Mendocino are, 90%, 93% of the vineyards are planted in just 7 varieties. And if you're wondering if most of them are French, you're right. The only non-French one is Zinfandel. But, one of the most exciting things about making wine in California is we're not governed by strict AOCs or DOPs that tell us what we can plan and what our yields need to be. So that means we're built for innovation here. We're built to be innovative, but we're only making mostly 7 grapes. And so I just think that our consumers are missing out on a world of flavors and excitement, just quite simply because they don't know the scope of what's out there. So
it makes complete sense, especially with your family's history and the history of California winemaking altogether. It's a perfect place to try to expand people's palates and open up the opportunity to learn more about the country that has the most great varieties in the world. And I think that, no, you're absolutely right. And wait, so where is your family? You said your family's from Lucca, but you spend time in Puglia.
So I know when I was in college, I did a service project in a town called Ostuni in Puglia, and my family here in California, we would travel back to our family in Italy every year, and for sometimes months at a time. And so we were very familiar with Italy and life in Italy. And then also while we were there visiting our family, we would travel around, as much as we could to the other regions. And then I went to Puglia for the first time in 2006, and I just immediately fell in love. And there was something about it right away that I was like, oh my gosh, I need to get back here at some point. I need to figure out, so yeah, Puglia has so much magic. I couldn't have designed it better in my dreams. And when I met my husband in 2009, I was like, you got to get to this place, Puglia, with me. It's amazing. And then when he finally came with me, he was like, oh my gosh, it's wonderful here. We kind of started just, actually the first time we went, we both got really sick. We had seen our niece before we went, and we caught some terrible toddler disease so we were pretty sick there the whole time. And we were like, even my husband said, oh my gosh, this place is so amazing, but I was kind of sick, so I want to go back when I'm not sick and experience it, full throttle. And then that started this chain of us going back every year, and we started making a lot of friends down there and kind of, integrating into the community a bit more. And finally, somebody down there was like, you guys come here every year. Why don't you just get a place? And when we looked into what it cost to buy property in Puglia at the time, we were like, oh my God, this is actually doable. I thought it was a pipe dream or something that we work towards in retirement, but it's so affordable, so approachable. So
Oh, that's lovely. And do you still go to the same place, Ostunia, or do you?
yeah, our apartment is in Ostuni, so that's where we spend most of our time. And then, kind of like most of Italy, but one of the wondrous things about it is find a town that's your home base, but then all the towns are so charming and kind of have their own unique traits that are worth visiting for a day trip or an afternoon or whatever. But we love Ostuni because it's perfectly centered as a town with not directly on the water. So it's kind of got this, more of this old town feel, but then you're only 6 kilometers from the coast, and the coast down there is epic. So it's on the Adriatic side. So it's pretty wonderful to get to the beach in like 10 minutes.
Are you enjoying this podcast? Don't forget to visit our YouTube channel, Mama Jumbo Shrimp, for fascinating videos covering Stevie Kim and her travels across Italy and beyond, meeting winemakers, eating local food, and taking in the scenery. Now back to the show.
Oh, that's the dream. That's what it's such a, I think, and obviously Italy is in my heart as well. I have a similar background to you with Italy, but it's like, for me, that's one of the things I love, is constantly being near the sea. And like, even though Verona obviously is not on the water, but like, we are not far from, Venice, the Adriatic. It's like just seeing seagulls when you're in a city. There's something magical about it, even though they're like flying dogs in their size. Sometimes they're huge, they're freaking huge, but it's still like, it's like, oh, I know, like the water is nearby. That's just amazing. Gosh, a place in Puglia. It's just a dream. I mean, so do you feel a little bit torn, though, between California and Italy?
I feel not torn. I think I know exactly where my heart lies. But that said, I love California so much, too. And I'm so grateful that this is where I was born and raised. And, I will always have such a soft place in my heart for California. But I definitely, I think it's so funny. I think life really comes full circle. And I think I was lucky enough to grow up really understanding my family's history and my family's roots. And, my family came here from Italy to kind of design the life that they desired. And then it all comes full circle. I feel like I'm ready now to go back to Italy to design the life that I desire.
It is really magical when that happens. And like I said, I totally understand with my family as well. It's like, especially when you have these little moments where you reconnect with these stories you heard growing up, or these experiences you had in the summer. And like, especially as an adult, because we all have our kind of inner child in us, it like makes you so much more light and excited about life, and like, and even, like as if you're drinking wine, that kind of like light happiness. And it's so beautiful. And I totally, now you have me thinking, and I always end up diverting to food on this podcast, because I like, what's wine without food, obviously. But what's your favorite thing to eat in Ostuni?
Oh my gosh. Well, that's a really loaded question. I love food so much. I get such enjoyment out of eating eating nourishing food. And also I get so much nourishment like in my soul out of eating for enjoyment. So it's this kind of definitely goes both ways. But I guess I would have to say Puglia, one of the things I love most about it is the typical dishes are quite seasonal. So they have like more typical dishes in the wintertime that go with the winter. And then they have more typical dishes in the summertime that really go with the summer. So I'm all about the summer, and I'm all about being near a body of water. So I have to say the crudo is like mind blowing. So there's raw gambero rosso, the red shrimp that's local to the area. The sea urchin. I can't eat sea urchin in California, but I will eat it all day long in Puglia. And scampi. And then, oh my gosh, shit yourself next to an ocean with a glass of crisp verdecca or bombino bianco. And I think that must be what they do in heaven, truly.
Oh, yes. Honestly, just looking at the sea, fresh fish, and like a good crisp glass of like local water. It's just, there's really nothing else I'd rather do, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, and I always end up, I say this too many times and I can count, but you ever like taste like a perfectly like crisp Italian white wine, most likely from the South, because there's a lot of great, they don't get as much attention, but they're great.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And you're just like, I'm always like, this is my boat wine. Like, I need to be by the sea or like literally on a boat, like drinking this. Oh, that's amazing. And so bringing it back to wine, being that Puglia, obviously people know Pugliese wine, but it's definitely up and coming in a lot of ways because there's more versatility and more diversity than people realize.
Absolutely.
Is there a particular wine that's very close to your heart that you want to tell us about from Puglia?
Yeah, well, let me just scale back really quickly and say I completely agree. So I've been going to Puglia basically every year now since 2015, and every year the winemaking is getting better and better, and the wines are more and more enjoyable. I mean, they've always had a true sense of place, but I think, they've obviously been making that kind of marked shift away from like Vino d'Italia a little. They were in that space a little longer and still are in that space in many regards. But there's finally some people, kind of making wine for the joy of it, for the quality as opposed to the quantity. And it's been really exciting to be present for kind of the evolution of it all. The local grapes there, it's so rare to find them even anywhere else in Italy, let alone outside of Italy. But like I said, they go so perfectly with what you're eating, what you're experiencing, the weather you're in. So couple of my favorites are Verdecca, which is this just like super like light, crisp, again, kind of like you said, boat wine, where when it's 40 to 45 degrees centigrade, you actually feel refreshed drinking this. I love Bombino Bianco. I love anything that they make into sparkling. So there's kind of a few sparkling Negro Amaros that are pretty fantastic. And then when it comes to the reds, like the reds are really interesting too. Just Primitivo is not my favorite grape, period. So I like to stick to more of the like Nero di Troia and even Susumagnello, but they all just seem to fit so well with the food and the place. And
absolutely. And I think there's, like you said, there's so much diversity, and it also opens up a lot of people to realize, of course, Puglia, being that it's its own peninsula in and of itself as a region, it also has a inland, rocky, hilly area, especially when you go north, that like, because a lot of people are often like, why does Puglia have these like intense red wines if it's like this hot and like, summer place, but it also has the other side of it, right? And like you said before, like in the history of the wine, and they do match the food too. Like, there's so many delicious things from Puglia to eat, even for non-fish lovers. Even something I will never understand how people don't like fish. Openly, I don't get it. But
I have to say too, vegetables in Puglia, it's kind of like, and I live in Sonoma County where like we can grow anything here and it's wonderful, but I have never had just like zucchini in olive oil taste so good as it does in Puglia. There is just like something about the vegetables that they grow that like the flavor is taken up 7, 8, 9, 10 notches. There's really something for everyone.
Yeah, especially with the olive oil, even though I know there's been issues with the pests, but it's like that, the richness and like, especially the freshness, because it's not transported. It's like, straight from the olive oil farm. Olive oil farm sounds so funny, but the farm.
I'm so glad we're spending so much time talking about Puglia, because I hope anyone listening, if you've never been, Puglia is this incredible place that I think has often been forgotten about, especially, the South kind of in general sometimes gets forgotten about, but within the South, there's definitely Amalfi and there's Sicily that have a little bit more fame, but Puglia is this really special place that is, especially in our town, Ostuni, like the number of young entrepreneurs doing really exciting things, like whether they own a restaurant, or there's a woman that I love down there who's a fashion blogger and like becoming really famous in this, and an amazing hairstyle. Like all of these incredibly passionate and excited people. And again, like I said, they're young, and it's just so cool to be part of this place that has so much innovation, but also a really solid grasp on, roots and culture.
Absolutely.
So I can't recommend Puglia highly enough.
Absolutely. I know. I'm happy. We're also we're ending on a beautiful Pugliese note. Well, thank you so much, Barbara. And I really enjoyed talking to you. And
yeah, thank you.
I wish you all the best.
You
and I hope
too.
to meet you in person sometime soon. And
thank you. You too.
Ciao, everyone.
Ciao.
As always, a big grazie for hanging out with me today. Remember, you can catch me every Sunday on the Italian Wine Podcast, available anywhere you can get your pods.